kick in the butt. It was fun. I loved it. You have this big parabola over your head that's gathering in all the sounds from down there, and you can hear people talk in their normal voice. You can hear everything they're saying, and you don't have to try. It's kind of neat. It focuses everything there. It's quiet. There's no sensation of falling, but obviously you can tell you are, and you try to steer and go where you want to, but those old FS5As that we jumped weren't the most maneuverable in the world. But yeah, it was a wonderful feeling floating down there. Loved it.
And did you have any bad experiences when you finally got to the ground in those 3 years?
Oh, I don't know if you want to call it a bad experience.
Memorable experience.
I have two memorable experiences. One is on my third or fourth practice jump, something like that. We're coming down to this little knoll, and they've been screaming and hollering at us that if you stand up when you land, we're going to throw you out. No discussion, you're gone. Well, I come down trying to land on the spot, and I land on this log. It's an old rotten log. And I try to fall and it won't let me. Because I'm going uphill, and it's kind of hard to rotate yourself around when your momentum and the rise of the hill are trying to make you stand. And so I get off that thing, and then I turn and fall down, and I'm getting glared at, and I get chastised severely about a piss poor landing fall at the end of the whole thing, or parachute landing roll, as we call them. But
what was the other time?
The other was in New Mexico, my second summer as a jumper. A bunch of us got pulled out of our refresher training after just a couple of jumps. We guaranteed you're going to get every jump you're supposed to have before we allow you to go on any fire. Well, we'd either had one or two practice jumps, and Dale comes in and he says, "Gentlemen, you're going to get the rest of your practice jumps over in Oregon. They got some fires and they need some help because their people aren't there yet." So they load us up in the or I guess it was a DC-3. Took us over there, and we start jumping over out of Redmond, Oregon. Go on a couple fires. One of the guys learns that the yucca plants, you want to stay away from them because they're heavy and the ends are very sharp, and they will go through your jumpsuit and the padding, and they will perforate you. One guy got skewered by one. Not all that badly, he got bandaged up and he was good to go, but there are some dangerous things down there. Anyway, we left from there and got sent down to Silver City, New Mexico to beef up the Missoula crews that are normally stationed there. And coming in on this one jump, I came through a big chaparral bush, and as I come down through the edge of the bush, I land on these big boulders that are not flat and end up twisting my ankle. Of course, it didn't bother me until after the fire was over and we started to walk out, and then it started swelling up on me. But that's the only time I really got any kind of injury, and that's nothing to even think about because it doesn't slow you up that much.
So you did that 3 years. You did. Yeah. You had 47 jumps. What was do you remember your last jump?
As a matter of fact, I don't.
And then you never went back to it. That was it. No skydiving, anything like that.
Well, I did join the Palouse Parachute Club at school. Got a couple of jumps with them, but they didn't have a chute for me to use, and I couldn't afford to buy one. Well, actually, they did have a chute, but what they had was an old cargo chute. Now, I got a long ride to the ground, but I never got anywhere close to the drop zone, and yeah, you could steer it, but I needed probably 2 more people hanging out from underneath that thing to get it to do anything. So I still have a couple of tickets good for a jump for the Palouse Skydiving Club because I just didn't want to do that. And after I went into the Army, I got assigned to the 82nd Airborne. And so I think I got 48 jumps
Really?
with the 82nd, yeah.
So now we're talking, what, 1971?
No, I was commissioned in May of 72, 21st of May.
ROTC or OCS? ROTC.
ROTC.
So you graduated from Moscow, University of Idaho, got your second lieutenant's bars, and then you went off to the 82nd?
Yeah, well, typical Army style. I volunteered to go to Vietnam, and they said, you need to put down a unit that's in Vietnam. I said, who's there? And they told me, so I said, request to be assigned to the 82nd in Vietnam. I put that in the remarks, but for stateside assignments, I asked for Fort Lewis, Washington, Fort Ord, California, or Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I figured Fort Lewis was a lot because they have a lot of combat troops there. They sent me to Fort Bragg, North Carolina on the other coast to be with the 82nd here in the States rather than in Vietnam.
We were both at Fort Bragg at the same time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Who were you with?
I was with the Continental Army Command Tactical Intelligence Center, the place that had all the triple concertina around it up by Eureka Springs.
Yeah.
14th MI Battalion. So tell me about your time in the 82nd, the whole time?
No, I was there from 72 to 75. I was with the 1st Battalion, 320th Field Artillery. I got detailed to the JAG Corps when our new commander took over, and I had been promised that I would be the executive officer for a firing battery and then looked at for command of a firing battery. The new guy came in, and he and I had a history, and so I got pulled out from the XO slot and put in as an assistant S1, that's personnel, and then detailed over to the JAG Corps. So while I was over there, I went down and interviewed with the Special Forces, and I got a slot with the Charlie Company 5th Battalion, 3rd Special Forces Group, which are the guys that train up here in Montana and Idaho. And anyway, I get back down to the Artillery Battalion. I get a call from branch at Department of the Army, and they said, what do you think you're doing? I said, what do you mean? You're trying to go Special Forces? I said, no, I've already done it. I said, well, if you do that, you won't go to flight school. And see, I'd come in, I went through the ROTC flight training program, and I'd been promised that as soon as I finished the basic course, I'd go to flight school. Well, they backed out of that. They sent me to the survey officer course, and then they sent me to Fort Bragg, and every time I talked to them, they say, well, we can't send you directly to flight school out of basic anymore. You have to actually spend time with your unit. How much time? 6 months. Then it became a year. Then it became 2 years. Then it became 3 years, and I could see what was happening. I was going to be too old to go to flight school. So I said, if I want to be too old, I'm going to do my time in the Army where I want. Special Forces sounded good. So when he tells me no flight school, I laugh at him and explain my thinking, and he says, well, what I got to do to keep you from going Special Forces? I said, if I have an RFO, it's a request for orders, in my hands by the end of the week for flight school, I won't go Special Forces. Otherwise, Monday morning, I'm going to be reporting for duty with the 5th Special Forces Group. 3rd Battalion, 5th Special Forces. I have backwards time for it. Anyway, the next morning, the S1 calls me in and hands me an RFO for flight school. And so I went to flight training at Fort Rucker, Alabama. I was there during the strike where the civilians we want more money, and the Army said it's the end of the fiscal year, we're already over budget, so we're not going to pay you. We'll go on strike, great, that way we don't have to pay you. And then a hurricane came through, they cleaned everything out and shut the post down for a while. So my training that was supposed to be 9 months became 11 months. And after graduation, I went to Korea